Hello Trailblazers, we are today going to be talking about the relic sets for 5 stars. If you haven't seen my 4-star video, go back and watch it. Without further ado, let's get started. We're going to start with Bailu. If you remember from my 4-star video with Natasha, it's going to be the exact same thing because her healing is purely of HP. So we're going to go with the pass by Running Cloud, outgoing healing increased by 10%, extra skill point, lovely job. And then we're going to go with Fleet. Fleet increases HP, which is wonderful, more healing. And then if you have higher speed, which you're going to want for supports, all allies gets extra attack. And everyone loves extra attack. We don't really look for damage for her, so we don't care about the damage output. It's all about healing. If we then move on to Bronya, Bronya is basically a support buffer, and she can cleanse and make your allies move straight away. So with Bronya, we're going to go with Eagle because really we want her to move as fast as possible. Extra wound damage, wouldn't mind. You could also consider doing Musketeer of Wild Wheat, so that little bit extra speed. But I think having that action move forward by 25% to allow her to attack or to buff another person is good. Other than that, just checking my notes, Fleet, because HP makes her a bit tankier and increases all our allies' attack by 8. All the other ones, it doesn't really help that much. You know, a bit more defense. She doesn't have any debuff, so you don't really want to build her with effect hit. So there's no point for getting that. She's not there to do damage, so we don't want the damaging ones like these crit ones. Or we don't want the effect hit one. I guess you could consider Sprightly because of the energy regeneration to mean that she can ult more, and then have her turn act to start of the battle a lot quicker. But really, it's really Fleet. I think Fleet for all allies, extra attack, a bit tankier, or ult a bit more with the energy regeneration. If I was going to choose between the two, I might lean a bit more towards Sprightly for the AoE ult more often and start the battle, because then you could buff one of your DPS. But you do have to consider this, because her skill that buffs means that your DPS takes their turn straight away after this. It might not be a good idea to use this, because you might want to wait for your DPS to go and then for Bronya to use her skill for them to go again and be buffed. So thinking about it, maybe Fleet will just top Sprightly. And I've changed my mind. I actually think Fleet could be better just because of that scenario. Wait for a DPS to go. Bronya buffs them with her skill. They can go again. If you want to move Clara, she's a bit of a niche character. You want enemies to attack her, so you need a specific team her. Primarily March 7th shielding her, and there's kind of multiple ways that you can build her. You can build her like a full tank, or you can build her like full damage, or a bit of both. So we're going to go through them. So if you want damage, go with the champions one. So then each time where attacks always hit, which is very good because you want her to be hit often, increases their attack for the rest of the battle. That's great. Or you could also go with guard to make it just full on tank. So reduce the damage taken. So because you're going to be hit quite often, or you want her to be quite often, don't want to take that much damage. And then when it's less than 50% of the max HP, restore HP and regenerate energy. I personally would kind of want to do as much damage as possible. And if you have a really good March 7th, then and some good light cones, but that's obviously another factor. I think the champion set would still would be the best for her, because you want her to get hit and then Svarog will attack, like counter attack and such. So I'll go with this. Then the two pieces will either be Belobog for increased defense, just so then you're a bit tankier. If we look at Clara, her skills, it's just physical damage. So really, the defense is just there for survivability. It's not. There's nothing on first skills that means that the defense is useful in any offensive way. Other than that, as we said, space. Just do as much damage as possible, you know. So, if I personally was going to build her, I would probably go with champion and space. If I wanted her to be more of a DPS focus in my team. If not, then I would go with guard and then Belobog. But then you could do a mix of the two. You could go guard, and then you could go space. But then that's kind of really not very optimal because you're losing quite a lot of damage. So maybe if you wanted to go over bruiser, so like good damage, but it's still a bit tankier, then I would probably most likely go with champion and Belobog. So that's Clara. If we then move on to Gepard. Gepard, he is just like Mark 7th, where his shield goes off his defense. So you want more defense on him. And also HP helps too. So you could build him with guard, so he takes less damage if you want him to be pure tank. But you could also build him with Musketeer, because he is quite slow with only 97 speed, or 92 speed with the +5. Allow him to go more often to get that ultimate off more often. Sorry. Glacial, you could think of using Glacial, but he's not really there for damage, really. So I would probably go with guard myself. Actually, because he's quite slow. He's not taunting, so maybe I would go with Musketeer to get just that a little bit extra speed. As for the two-piece, we can use Belobog for increases more defense, so it's bigger shields. Or we could go with Fleet for max HP and increases your allies' attack. Reason why I want a bit more max HP is because he restores a certain percentage of his max HP, and the more max HP he has, the more of it technically will be restored, so he will have more health in that sense. So if he had like 10,000 HP, then it'll be 22% of that, but which would be like 2,200. But if he only had 5,000 HP, it'll be like half that, if that makes sense. So the more HP, he's going to regenerate the same amount of percentage, but because he's got more HP, he's going to be a lot more healthier and more tanky in that sense. Hi Trailblazers, Future Jollis here. I had a comment on my previous video for the 4 stars and the best in slot relics, and it made a really, really good point. For Gepard, but they were pointing out for March 7th, Knight of the Purity Palace is a far better choice over Guard of the Wuthering Waves. Because yes, this does reduce damage if they're going to be the tank for you, but because their shields are based off defense, increases defense, and then increases the damage that the shield can take. So I just wanted to put that out. So thanks to Danny for pointing that out to me, and I'll see you next time. If we then move on to Himeko, so you can build her pure damage, or you could build her with her talent into consideration with the counter attacks. The follow-up attacks after you shatter 3 enemies. So 100%, no matter what, you will want the lava forging for the fire damage, increases skill damage, and after you use your ultimate, increase your fire damage an extra 12% for the next attack, which is very good. I'm not certain if this next attack is considered her follow-up attack, I would have to test that. As for these two pieces, you can, if you want to do the follow-up attack one, then get this extra crit rate, and then ultimate and follow-up attack damage is increased by 15%. So that can, if you're purely going for waves, then this could be something to consider because you're going to follow-up attack quite often. But as we know, space is always solid and does gives you extra good chunk of damage. If we then move on to, we're not doing Jing Yuan, he's not out yet. So if we move on to Seele, then she's very, very easy to understand. We're going to want the genius for more quantum damage, ignoring defense, and then space. The reason why this is especially good for her is because in her skills, I believe she increases her own speed. Yep, so increases speed by 25%. So if you increase your own speed by 25%, it might, if you're not fast enough, you might even be able to proc this to get the extra attack. Her base speed is 115. So getting 120 with that 25%, boom, is already done without any substats. So you're like guaranteed after using your skill to get that 24%, even if you don't have any speed in your actual relic stats. So this is best for her. If we then move on to, we're going to do Trailblazers last. So if we go on to Welt, he's like a sub DPS. The two pieces is something that we're going to talk about, but obviously you will want the Wastelanders for imaginary damage. If they're debuffed, which they would most likely will be with Welt because he does debuff slows and stuff. You get extra crit rate and crit damage and crit rate, and then he's going to imprison them anyway. If you look at Welt, look at his skills. If you don't know about that, he can slow enemies, reduce enemy speed, so that's a slow. This imprisons them, you know, so he imprisons and he slows them down. So this is just good overall. Now, coming to two pieces, this is what we need to consider. Space, as I said, DPS, he's a sub DPS, so that's going to be great. You could also use Sprightly for the energy regeneration for his ultimate. If you look at his ultimate, does damage to all enemies, and it imprisons them, 100% base chance. So again, the extra effect hit. This is not effect hit, sorry. We'll talk about effect hit in a second. 100% imprisons them and slows them. So you want to, if you can do that, means that they will take less turns and you can use this more often. So getting that's really good. And having his turn move first, which means he can build up his ultimate if you don't have it already quicker. That's really good. You could also consider Pan, as I was saying a second ago, effect hit, and then increases his damage. Because you want a good effect hit so you can land those slows and imprisonments. And then before we go on the Trailblazers, we'll go to Yanqing. He is kind of, he's similar to like Mark 7th with the follow-up attacks, but instead he just has a base 50% chance to counter attack. See, 50% chance to follow up attack. You know, so this is where it is. It depends on this 2-piece. Anyway, for this 4-piece, frost damage or ice damage, we want glacial. You know, increases crit damage, which is great because his ultimate already increases his crit damage. And it buffs him in other ways. As for all DPS, space, great one. But he could also possibly use inert. Increases his crit rate. And when it's 50% or higher, which you're likely to get. So if we have a quick look at his skills, when he ultimate, increases crit rate by 60%. 6% just from his ultimate, bam! The whereas ultimate follow-up attack damage increased by 15%, so his follow attacks will do 50% extra damage. If you haven't ulted already, his talent, his crit rate is increased by 15% and crit damage by 15%. So he already gets an extra 15% to start with, not even with your substats that you get. So getting 50% is going to be even easier. And then follow-up attacks. And if you get good RNG and get those follow-up attacks each time you attack, then you're going to increase them by 50%. So it is a worthwhile case thinking of this, having the follow-up attacks. But if you want the guaranteed damage, and not rely on the follow-up attacks per se as much, then as always, space. If we go on to the Trailblazers, let's start with physical, because that's what everyone starts with. Physical is a DPS, so it's going to be very similar to Su Shang. I think it's actually the same as Su Shang as we talked about in the previous video. And we will want the champion physical damage whenever they attack or are hit. They get up to an extra 25% attack. Great. And then space. There's nothing really else to say. The numbers show us that this is the best one. I'll link Pride Win in the description or in the pinned comment so you can go have a look at it. If we then go to Fire, this is when it changes to a tank support. So you can either go the damage way, where ultimate and your basic attacks or empowered basic attacks increase damage, and this bit is literally useless. So unfortunately, with Pride Win, you can't put two pieces together of these 4-piece sets. So this bit is useless. But after unleashing an ultimate, increases the wearer's fire damage by 12% for next attack. That is quite good, because if we look at fire, after using an ultimate, the next basic attack will automatically be enhanced and won't cost magma will. When it's on this enhanced one, it does damage to the person and adjacent enemies. So get that boosted damage is quite good. But this is literally useful. So what you could think of doing is having the increased fire damage 2-piece, and then go to Musketeer and just get the extra 12% attack. Unfortunately, I can't see the numbers in this because it doesn't allow me to choose two pieces. But if two pieces, fine. And that's even said for all DPS. I'll have to put that in the comments of the previous video. If you can't get a good 4-piece set, 2-piece for DPS this is, 2-piece of their element and 2-piece Musketeer. You can't go wrong with that. Let's say you can get the 4-piece though. So have this. Yes, this is bad, but you get this boosted attack. That's great. As for this 2 pieces, space for the DPS, as we know, or Bellabog, because if you didn't know, whenever we attack, there you go. When the Trailblazers use a base attack, skill, or ultimate, apply shield to all allies that is equal to a percentage of the Trailblazers' defense. Right? So this is why you consider, I want bigger shields for my team. Get extra defense. Effect hit to get even more defense. So that is something to consider. And I think, yes, that wraps it up for all of the 5 stars that we currently have out. Let's go over Jing Yuan, because he's basically very, very, very very easy. He's a DPS, so without even knowing his skill numbers, he's electric, so the thunder and space, right? Yes, maybe he could have better ones, but this is very, very solid. Anyway, thanks for watching. Let me know what other videos you want me to do, and I'll catch you guys later. Bye!